Today's lesson is about the point of view of the writer. Now, when any writer sets out to write on a certain subject, he already has a certain set of thoughts about the subject. And these thoughts will be reflected in his writing. It is the position from which he expresses his text. We can say that the writer has a certain attitude towards the subject before he even starts writing. That means he has thoughts about the subject, be it rhino poaching, be it global warming, be it a new app that he's writing on. He already has a certain set of thoughts. He has thoughts and he has feelings about the subject. Now, these thoughts will probably be either positive or negative, or he could have like a dual idea on what the subject is all about, whether he likes it or he doesn't like it. But usually he is positive or negative about the subject. Now, with the set of thoughts with which he comes to the text, he has certain intentions because remember, there's always a purpose to writing. He has certain intentions. So, through writing this article or book, whatever it is that he's writing, he wants the readers to feel something. They must either share his feelings or he just challenges the ideas out there. And so he wants a certain reaction in the audience. That's the intention. So, in other words, the point of view that we're talking about, as far as a writer is concerned, is his attitude towards the subject and his intentions as to where he wants to go with his text. In other words, the reaction that he wants to elicit from you, the reader. So we've already established now that the writer's point of view is the position from which something is expressed. Now, when we want to identify a writer's point of view, we're going to have to look at a few style issues. We're going to look at the diction that he's using, etc. So we're going to try and establish, also, for instance, through the positive or negative connotations of a certain word, whether he feels positive or negative towards the subject. We are going to try and establish whether he's writing from a personal point of view, in other words, a first or a second point of view. This is my opinion and I'm involving you. I want you to share it. That's a personal point of view. So is he writing from a personal, first person point of view, or is he trying to be balanced? Is he trying to be impersonal and objective? We're talking from a third. So it's the first, second point of view, and then the third point of view, which is objective, which is impersonal. And then, of course, once we've looked at these aspects, or we've established that this is what we're going to look for, we are going to try and find the evidence from the text, that either your assumption is true or not true in terms of his either positive or negative point of view towards the subject. We are going to look at an article written by Busi Mtamani in the Right to Know platform, where he talks about a guide. And it has to do with digital self-defense and empowerment. That is what this guide is all about. So we are now going to try and establish what the writer's attitude about this guide, because that is the subject that he's writing about, is. We're going to see how he starts from a pretty neutral stance, where he says, as we progress into the 21st century, and he talks about digital technology, which is changing society, and the spread of computers and the internet. And it's something we all know. And note how he is including the reader. So he's writing from a first and second point of view. It's I and you and we are all in the same boat. We are living in this age. Now you're going to see how he slowly but surely brings his attitude to this subject. He now says, okay, this is the way it is. We are surrounded by the internet and computers and so on. But enormous, look at the choice of diction. Enormous amounts of information is being collected by governments and corporations. Note what he does, very subtly, but he's starting with his word of warning here. He says, he uses is being collected. He uses the passive voice. He's not saying by whom, but he says, careful, we are vulnerable, we are surrounded by technology, but watch out, your information is being collected. So note the careful choice of words there, and as though he's going in a certain direction. Then he starts to talk about the guide. And now look at the diction that he's using. Note I've written the positive things that he says about the guide in green. It will equip you. You are vulnerable. Your information is being collected. But wait a minute. This guide will equip you. Look at the positive connotations of equip, right? You with the info, they're going to give you info, and it's going to protect you. Once again, positive connotations. Against. Now, note how he says it's now you against the government and corporate spying. Note how he's taken the passive voice there and the neutral terms, and he's now calling it spying. So spying has negative connotations, right? But he's juxtaposing this with the guide that will protect you, okay? How? With knowledge about people's tech for people's power. It will empower you. Look at this positive word. That's what the guide will do. He's talking about the guide. Is he positive or negative? Positive. Individuals and societies to do what? To control. They're taking all your information, but wait, you can control it. And this guide will help you, right? Then he goes on and he says what this guide will do. It will contextualize the issues of surveillance to its root causes. He still goes on to talk about the problems that we have out there that's threatening our privacy, our security, our surveillance. And then he goes on to start connecting what he's saying about what the government does, what this guide can do for us with political names. He's talking about capitalism and authoritarianism, right? And then he talks about digital capitalism, and it all has to do with that, as opposed to digital socialism. So once again, we've got this person's personal, even political views coming into play here. He says that's what they're doing. It's a political game that the government is playing, and you need to fight it, right? Because the government wants to directly own and control. Own, control. Very negative sounding words, right? But the means of computation. And the guide will develop the well-being, look at the positive word, of humanity. Even humanity has positive connotations. And then as opposed to the government's need for profit and control. So can you see he's juxtaposing through the use of diction, the negative aspect of the government surveillance, and then the positive aspect of what the guide can do for you. So if you just follow the rules, look for positive, negative, for instance. Look for whether he's giving his personal, the I and the we, and whether he wants to persuade us, and how does he want to do that. We can clearly see the attitude or the point of view of the writer. And what does he want us to do? Through the positive words for the guide, the negative for the government, he wants us to join him in fighting whatever is happening here. So, did we manage to identify the writer's point of view on the subject of the guide? Remember, that was the subject to digital self-defense and empowerment. Is it positive? It's obviously very positive towards the guide. We have seen the evidence. We've seen the diction. We've seen the personal pronouns. We've got the evidence that it is true. We could clearly figure out what his intentions are. He's talking about the well-being of humanity, and he says we are in trouble. We must fight it. So his intentions are obviously very positive in terms of the guide and how this can help us and how we should fight government control. We've looked at the first person. We've looked at that, and it was not from an impersonal. So in other words, it is his own view. He's feeling strongly about it, and that is the writer's personal point of view.